Out of all the players in this WNBA draft class, nobody intrigues me more than Raven Johnson. We've seen the wins, we've seen the highs, we've seen the lows, and now we've seen her preparing to go into her final NCAA tournament before entering the WNBA draft. And I wanted to talk about her career and where she might end up in that draft. So I brought in No Cap Space's draft expert, Rashard Hall, to talk about her entire career and where she might land in the draft. Let's talk about it here on No Cap Space. I am so excited to be welcoming in Rashard Hall, No Cap Space's expert when it comes to scouting, when it comes to the draft. And Rashard, I'm excited to have you here to talk about Raven Johnson. I know you had this article drop for the Ball Knowers, but I wanted to bring it over here to the YouTube as well because I am so intrigued by her story as a prospect. I talked about it in the intro, but I want to bring it to you. When you think back to like that wave off and what happened with that game against Iowa, to where we are now in terms of the offensive threat that Raven has kind of become here, did you ever think that this level of output was possible from Raven Johnson?
I always thought that the output was possible for Raven Johnson because way before that wave off happened, she was one of the top prospects coming out of high school. I think in that class that she was in with, Bree Hall and Sanaya Fagan, they considered her the big bird, like the big uh prospect that committed to South Carolina,
Mm-hmm.
and she's been very accomplished in high school. Obviously with her now teammate Tanaya Latson, I think they like made it to like states like all 4 years. She was like the only women's basketball player to get picked to be in AI's basketball
Yeah.
competition. So Raven was a prospect that had a lot of hype behind her. Her high school stats speak for themselves. Like she was scoring, she was on the defensive end. I think the injury really set her back in her official freshman year at South
Mm-hmm.
Carolina. And like that year, she was just like finding her footing after spending the year off the court. And I think like with the wave off, I think that game she still shot an efficient number from three that game, which is so funny. But I always thought that she would come back from that moment and just, work in the off season and like show us what she's really about, like the high school player that we all saw.
Do you feel like there's been a certain type of shift for her on the offense side of the ball? Like it feels like there's a found kind of confidence, I guess, if nothing else, with her on that side. Like what part of her game on that side of the ball has impressed you the most over the course of this year?
I think that the confidence has kind of been there already, but I
Mm,
feel like a person like Raven is very unselfish. If she has a team around her with like, options like, where I may not need to score the ball,
mm-hmm.
I think that's her mindset. To like, we could win this game without me really scoring. Although I think like this year specifically, it's more of a
Mm-hmm.
realization of it's like a different type of a play style with South Carolina because obviously like yes they do go in to Joyce and Medina, but it's more guard heavy. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like this season, and it's like a realization that like we need more output from our guards. I think the parts of her game that impressed me the most this season, obviously defense. I mean, like we
Yeah.
know Raven for her decent our defense. She takes on like the tough assignments and sets the tone on that end. But what's also most impressive is her basketball IQ and feel for the game. I feel like she's like one of those guards, out here this year that just knows how to control the game, knows who exactly to find in those clutch moments, while
Mm-hmm.
also knowing when to score and like when it's her time to step up. So I
Yeah.
think it's like her IQ that is just like every game. It's like wow.
I don't know if there's anybody smarter playing the game right now in terms of being able to run the offense. You mentioned the unselfishness too. Like obviously, has always had talent surrounding her at South Carolina. So scoring has never really been a requirement per se. Maybe as much as it has been until this season, where there's been moments where they've turned to Raven Johnson, especially in clutch time moments, to go and get them buckets. And I think it's been. You mentioned the defense side of the ball. That's certainly something that we've been known when it comes to Raven, but I find it interesting as well how this now has made her a more complete player across the board, especially as we kind of look forward and look ahead to her potential as a pro prospect. And obviously, we don't know when the draft is happening right now when it comes to
Right.
the CBA stuff and everything from the time we're recording this. But for you, like, what makes her so intriguing as that pro prospect?
I think, well, let's start like with just her being a natural point guard.
Yeah.
Obviously, we spoke about the IQ and her feel for the game, but I feel like in all of her years at South Carolina, you can see that she plays with like real control as a floor general. Um, I feel like there's not a game where you can really pick apart her having like a lack of control on the floor.
Mm,
I feel like she understands like the pace and the spacing. And again, like when to get teammates involved. That can be a guard, that could be a wing, that could be a post player. Like
hmm
she knows when to find the ball. I mean, like just watching the South Carolina games, we can see her finding Tessa in like the perfect shooting pocket to get the shot off. We can see her making shots easier to fall from Medina and
hmm
even Joyce. Like just finding players in their sweet spots and knowing where each player likes to get the ball.
hmm
I think just her being like a two-way guard impacts winning beyond scoring.
Yeah.
Like again, we speak about her on the defensive end and like her picking it up on the offensive end, and like she just has proven experience in big games under Don Staley. I feel like over the course of the past few years, we've seen a lot of players get drafted um, from South Carolina, and just like making that leap over to the WNBA has been
hmm
easier for them, and a lot of players have said the adjustment has been real smooth.
hmm
Um, I also think that her improved shooting makes her offensive game more complete. Obviously, there'll be people that are looking at like the stats from two of these four seasons that she's
hmm
played, because I feel like it's like a half and half, but stats only tell half of the story.
hmm
Um, but again, I think the biggest thing is her ability to defend and organize the offense and just make smart decisions that are always valuable at this
hmm
next level. I think she always could score, but she didn't need to. So now we're seeing what it looks like when a team is heavily dependent upon Raven, along with the Joyce and Medinas. But this is a team that do rely on their guard play more than they did before.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, Raven's a winner. That's also part of it. Raven is simply a winner, and that I think is going to be something that is valued when we get into this WNBA draft process. And obviously, we'll see. She might have some more things to add to her cabinet before the end of the season. There is a very real potential of that. We've talked a lot about the offensive side of the ball, but I want to talk about the defensive side of the ball because as much as the improvements have been the story of this season for Raven Johnson when it comes to her as a total player, as a two-way player, the defense is still top notch. I mean, it is. There's not many players I'm picking over her as a defender right now across the country right now, if any. Frankly, for you in your eyes, and it doesn't have to be necessarily just this season, but over her career as a whole, like what makes her unique as a defender? Because this has been the reason, on top of the control that she has offensively, but it's her defense that's kept her on the court and has made her such a vital piece of South Carolina's program over her time of her career. What makes her unique as a defender in your eyes?
Well, I think defense is where she really sets the tone, and
Mm-hmm.
like she takes a lot of pride in not even just guarding the opposing guards, but just, getting stops all around, no matter who she's guarding, no matter if it's a
Mm-hmm.
switch off. I think that's just like where, she probably like, I feel like defense leads to offense. And we hear coaches say that a lot. So I feel like she sets a tone on defense so she could get like, started off on the offensive end. Like she's active in the passive lanes and creates a lot of disruption. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like most of the times, like, when she does like get her scoring started off, it's mostly from her being the passing lane and leading to a layup, and then like
Mm-hmm.
now it's like all right, like the energy and the effort is there on that end, and it's consistent. I feel like she brings that kind of intensity that a lot of coaches trust in big moments.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, I mean, obviously, like she's in the conversation for defensive player of the year.
Sure.
She won defensive player of the year in the SEC, which, I mean, hey, I mean, for all we know, it's been dominated
Yeah.
by bigs. I'm not sure
Yeah.
when's the last time a guard won defensive player of the year. And
Mm-hmm.
then we could talk about like the stats in terms of like the ranked teams that she's played this year. Like she held people to 38 .4 field goal percentage this
Mm-hmm.
year. Off the court, I mean off court, 42 0.4%. Um, in terms of the field goal percentage, against the top 10 scorers in the SEC, her
Yeah.
primary defender shot 25%. And also her primary defender on points per possession was 57.1%. So she takes a lot of pride in defense. I mean, we could talk about the matchups she's had against top teams in the
Hmm.
SEC, like the Texas and like other teams, but I feel like she takes a lot of pride in her defense.
Yeah. And this leads us now to thinking about where she could be in the WNBA draft. Because, again, I think it's something that is. I think she's played her stock up massively over the course of the season, but I don't know exactly where she's going to fall. For you, obviously, there's some other guards in the running here. You look at Olivia Miles, you look at Kiki Rice in terms of
Right.
teams that need a point guard. But for you, what are maybe some like the top landing spots that you could maybe see her eventually dropping to or being picked up maybe even higher in the draft than maybe most would expect with the way that she's been able to play this season?
So based off my most recent mock draft, the most ideal spot that I have Raven going to is the Chicago Sky.
Mm,
Um, and I think there's a fit there for many reasons. Obviously, they've been in need of a natural point guard who, can grow with Camila Cardozo and injuries, and one that can get the ball into them. Obviously, there's an expectation that Courtney Vandersloot is returning to the Chicago Sky,
mm-hmm,
so it won't put too much pressure on Raven coming in from college to just be, the PG1.
mm-hmm,
It'll give her some room to like learn under accomplished point guard within the league. And just like you probably like, lead with defense first when she first gets there.
mm-hmm.
But we already see how she plays with Camilla. That's proven chemistry there,
Yeah.
like dating back to AAU days, and she's familiar with Angel Reese as well. They've played against each other. They know each other off the court, so I think that would be like the most ideal spot. I
Mm-hmm.
can see her fitting in Seattle as well, but I feel like a person like Olivia Miles, like which we've spoken about, she's kind of like had that, that attached to her
Mm-hmm.
for
Mm-hmm.
probably like 2 seasons in a row. Like the possibility of going to Seattle,
Mm-hmm.
before she had a connection, a Notre Dame connection, this kind of thing is not so much anymore. But I think I think this is probably like we're not sure what the play style would be with Seattle as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think it'll be intriguing to like see what that type of environment would look like now
Yeah.
that Noel Quinn is not there. I do personally think if Noel Quinn was still the coach at Seattle, then there'll be a possibility of Raven going there
Mm-hmm.
because she takes pride in defense and just like having um being a point guard herself,
Yeah.
coming playing in the league. But I think the most ideal spot would be Chicago because of the chemistry that's there and the needs of like, on both ends.
No, I see. I mean, obviously, when you look at some of the tippy top teams of this draft, maybe not necessarily needing a guard, but there are some teams that desperately need a guard in this
Yeah.
first round. That I think at this point it feels more and more like a lock that we will see Raven going in the first round, and it feels like it could be a very high situation. I mean, again, Olivia Miles, Raven, Kiki Rice, in whatever order you want to take them, those are your top three guards here in this
Right.
draft. So I'm very intrigued to see where Raven Johnson ends up. And Rashard, thank you for joining on the YouTube, my man. This is
No
a long
problem.
time coming. So I'm excited to have you on here. I'm excited to hopefully do some more of these type of things with you. And make sure you're tapped in here on No Cap Space so you don't miss out on any of it. Make sure you subscribe here to the YouTube and go check out all of Rashard's work on No Cap Space WBB.com. Mock drafts, power rankings, all those types of things, and some scouting stuff in depth as well. All on No Cap Space WBB.com. Make sure you tapped in with us across the board, and I'll talk to you next time.